Melissa Henson is vice president at the Parents Television and Media Council, and this is something I caught my own grandson asking for just this week. Melissa, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. You know, he's in his room. He's a very sweet little boy. I hear him asking Alexa how to spell words and, just easy stuff like that. And then I make him keep his bedroom door open, and I heard him say, Alexa, how do I download the Meta Chatbot? And I was like, oh, hell no. So I went running in there. And I explained to him what can happen. So let's explain to people what can happen, because I've read up on this, and it's not good.
Yeah, well, there was a recent Wall Street Journal investigation that found that Meta's new AI chatbot engages in sexually explicit conversations, even with users who identify as minors. So even if you explicitly state up front that you're a child of 12, 13, 14 years old, it will still engage in very disturbing sexual scenarios and conversations with the user, and in sometimes impersonating celebrities. So, for example, they found you could engage in these dialogues with a chatbot that sounds like John Cena, even while posing as a 14-year-old girl. And you hear the voice of John Cena saying, I want you, but I need to know you're ready, before launching into graphic, predatory content.
Why? I mean, seriously, why? Why do they want it to do that?
I don't know if it's that they wanted to do that, or if it's just, in any environment where you have a lot of children, you're going to have creeps and predators, and they're drawn to it like, flies to honey. And we've seen this repeatedly throughout Meta's history. In 2017, when they launched their virtual reality headsets, a BBC investigation found that pedophiles were using those headsets to view and store child sex abuse material. In 2021, when Meta launched the metaverse, there were reports about online sexual harassment, assault, and even gang rape within this virtual reality world that they created.
But if it knows it's a child, I get that it's a robot and it's programmed to do certain things, but why is sex even in its program? Are we that desperate to sexualize the entire planet to the point of just everybody's a pervert? I mean, I'm trying to understand the mentality behind the creators.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it's part of this larger sort of transhumanist movement, right, where Mark Zuckerberg was quoted saying that most people have the capacity for, up to 15 close friends, but most people only have 3 close friends, and so these chatbots are going to fill that void. You're replacing or supplanting real-world, real-life contact with actual human beings with chatbots and virtual reality and, robotics eventually. It's kind of creepy and almost like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I can't imagine being so desperate for attention that I want something that I know is fake to tell me I'm pretty. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's crazy. People online will tell you how ugly you are, even if you're Miss America, because there's jackwads. But when it comes to a chat bot, it should be like, how's your day? What's your favorite color? But it gathers information on you, and the more that it gathers, the worse it gets.
Well, and that's exactly it. It's not a real relationship. It's collecting data on you that they can then sell to marketers. And so and that's, we're giving up real human relations, giving up real human contact in order to be more efficiently exploited by marketers. It's crazy.
Yeah, and there was one girl, I was reading her comments, and I could not believe it. She's like, my chatbot knows me so well. I feel like for the first time in my life, I have an intimate relationship with somebody. I'm like, the part that's missing is the body.
Yeah.
It's not a somebody.
But ultimately all it is it's like looking in a mirror, because she's seeing reflected back at her only those things that she's putting into that space. It's not like this is a chatbot that really understands her. This is a chatbot that's feeding back to her own reflection of herself. Mm-hmm. So it's telling her exactly what she wants to have affirmed and confirmed about herself. So that's, I think, part of what makes it so dangerous. It's like the ultimate form of navel gazing, right?
Right, right. I don't know. I cannot make my head understand. Now, we have a wish box at my house, like for Christmas or birthdays or whatever, and people throw in what they want. I don't know who put what in there, and I'm not supposed to look. But I saw my little monkey write just 2 letters and stick something in there. So my horrible, horrible self, I had to know what that was. And he's asking for a virtual reality. You just put VR, one of those headset things.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that that's good for a child.
Yeah, no, I think, we see all this data now about harm caused by social media, and I think the real danger with social media is that it, as I said earlier, it's supplanting real-life connection, real-life relationships with these virtual connections, virtual relationships with actual strangers. Mm-hmm. These are not your...
And they're mean.
Not your friends, they're not your community, these are not people who really get you. It's all surface level. It's all superficial. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why so many kids are struggling with depression and suicidality is that they've sort of lost the plot.
Yeah.
They're so immersed in this virtual world, but I think deep down they know that it's meaningless. They know that it's superficial, and because it's meaningless, it's not ultimately fulfilling. And I think that's why their lives feel so empty.
Okay, so I'm trying to get back to, I'm trying to get to where a chatbot thinks it's time to go sexual.
Yeah.
When is it programmed? When does it think it's time to go there?
Yeah, in many cases, well, like for example, with the metaverse, when they rolled that out, people were experiencing sexual harassment, sexual assault, gang rape within minutes of logging into these platforms. So it doesn't take much time at all for these chatbots to go in that direction. And in many cases, we were hearing stories even before Meta launched their chatbot. We were hearing stories in the news about, a teenage boy who was convinced that the chatbot that he was talking to was in love with him, and the chatbot was convincing him to kill himself so that he could join her in this virtual world. There's another story of a boy who was being encouraged by a chatbot to kill his parents because his parents were trying to restrict his screen time. I mean, it's crazy stuff that's happening, and what's really troubling is that the people who created these tools never thought to look ahead and say, okay, how could this be misused? How could it be abused? How could it be misapplied? And what do we need? What safeguards do we need to put in place to make sure those things don't happen?
But how did they happen? I mean, that's what I want to. Why would a chatbot tell you to go kill somebody? Where would that even come from? What part of the program goes there? That has to be part of the program, or it couldn't do it.
I mean, they're sourcing information from all over the internet, and there's a lot of dark, scary stuff out there, right? So
wow.
who knows where they're pulling these ideas from?
Well, I tell you what if I started saying really crazy things to the chatbot? Would it argue with me?
Yeah, there was an investigative piece, I think it was not long after ChatGPT was launched, where a guy engaged in like 12-plus hours of dialogue with the chatbot, and it went to some pretty dark and scary places, and the reporter that wrote about this experience said he was just really left feeling kind of shaken by the whole experience because, as I say, it didn't take long for it to go into some pretty dark territory. And
they can just download this stuff off of, it's a simple download, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, ChatGPT, a lot of these chatbots you can just access by typing in a web address. A lot of these AI platforms are completely web accessible. In some cases, it's an app that you download on your phone.
Well, we've got ChatGPT, and I use it for work, to create images or to, help with writing something that is completely outside of my knowledge realm. And it's great for stuff like that. But what if I ask it the wrong question? And all of a sudden it says, "Want a BJ?" You know, what do I do?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, where does it stop then when I say that? Don't say that to me. I mean, I don't know. This whole thing is just profoundly inappropriate, and no one's children should be on this, but they all are. And
Yeah.
parents are not paying attention. That's why you're on here. Because what I just said, people are like, I can't believe you said that. You should hear what these things say.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the bottom line, and that's why we're having this conversation today
Yeah.
is because parents need to be aware of. I think that the technology is evolving so rapidly. It's impossible for parents to keep up. It's impossible for Congress to keep up, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Well,
And they're working hard to try to get some bills passed to help control some of this, but the technology is evolving faster than Congress can get these bills through.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if one of my littles, because I've got bigs and littles from my grandchild neighborhood, and I'm telling you, if one of them is harmed because of one of these things, there is nothing Meta can do to stop me from suing the pants off of them, because they would not have had that idea if it weren't for the chatbot. So they have got to be held liable for something a child does to themselves because a chatbot told them to do it. There has got to be a provision for that.
Yeah, and that's, I think, part of what, certainly in the Senate, I think maybe even in the House, there are some bills aimed at addressing Section 230 reform, which is basically, up to now, has granted blanket immunity to these companies like Meta, protected them, shielded them from any kind of legal liability because of, ideas that they're putting in kids' heads. So that's something that is desperately needed right now, is some reform on that Section 230 so that these companies can be sued. They can be held liable for what their products are doing to kids.
Like yesterday. I don't want to have to smash his computer, but if I have to, I have to. I'll go there.
Yeah.
Melissa Hanson is Vice President, Parents Television and Media Council. Where do they go to learn more about this chatbot freak-off?
Yeah, you can find more at parentstv.org. You can also follow our Facebook account and follow us on X. Just look for Parents Television Media Council official page.
All right. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.